She's like, what is she doing? Yeah. Oh, this is so cool.
I really like Kanye's raps. As a producer, he did some very innovative stuff. He was the first rap artist producer to use voices as rhythm. But the chorus, in the background, there's voices that are being told. And some of the other South guys. Although I was waiting for him to run for president. And then all of a sudden that kind of stopped.
She makes fun of him too.
Yeah, when I cough, she coughs. I'll go. She'll be like. I'll be like.
That's empathy for you.
Alright, yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Perfect.
Nice.
Good thinking.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you just committed to making like 1 billion of those, but it's gonna look great.
You have to be careful. You saw, did you look at the, because nopal might go right over that. So you have to double check, look at the photo. But the nopal's going to be spaced out, so like, from an angle, You didn't see it put together, no. That's why I sent the photo.
So we're recording now.
Hello.
Okay. And thank you again for joining me. I know we've met a couple times through Cal Poly campus and Centro de Pueblo, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to just kind of start by telling me about the type of work that you do or things that you've done?
Yeah. I'll start off with my name. Or
Oh,
is
yeah.
is it anonymous? I
No,
don't know.
no,
Okay.
please. I'm sorry.
All right. I am anonymous.
I mean, if you want to be.
No, my name is Octavio Acosta, and I am Mexica and Purepecha,
And you are all just working together, and there's
which means that my mom comes from the areas of Mexico City, and that's the Mexica side, and my dad comes from the areas of Michoacan, which is where the Purepecha they live, and I was born in Los Angeles.
Cool.
Los Angeles, Chicano, and I'm a husband. I'm a Chicano husband because we're not officially married, but we have a baby. So Chicano married.
That's so cute. I love that.
And for tax purposes for right now.
Oh, yeah,
Anyways,
yeah. Totally.
so you can have medical and stuff. But
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a father of Lolita Quetzali Acosta, and yeah, that's who I am. That's where I come from.
Nice.
Yeah, and what was your question again?
What do you think of when you think about work, like the labor that you do? Where do you put most of your energy every day?
Well, I feel like I have two different definitions. You know, one work is to make things. One work is kind of like, you know, mostly for to be able to make financial ends meet. You know.
Yeah. I think I have two definitions too.
Yeah. And then the other work is like, you know, that heart work that just, you know, something inside me guides me. You know, I listen to the wind, I listen to the signs, to coincidences.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I should keep going in this direction. Or I feel like, you know, a crazy idea or dream comes in my head, and then, you know, I meet someone who is, you know, wants to go on that journey as well, and so it's like then we kind of have that synergy.
And you team up.
Yeah, and make things bigger, or make things, you know, actually realize. And so that's the other type of work.
Okay.
I feel like the first type of work, you know, growing up in Los Angeles, I came to Humboldt after high school because they were accepting anyone, you know, up here from LA, you know. So we need some more brown people. So
They did do that.
yeah. So I was like, all right, I'll go up there. And I think Monterey accepted me as well, or I think I was denied by Monterey. And so I came up here to study, and I found, you know, this intense freedom, you know, freedom from my parents, and you know, drugs and alcohol and party, and
There's
you
a
know,
lot of
yeah.
that.
And so I was, you know, I failed school, you know, because they were asking me to do homework, and they were
I
asking
hate
me
that.
to read and stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's like we cheated during our tests. You know, we did our homework the day before, or I mean, the morning of. In my high school, I grew up in Lenox, and it's an area around Inglewood.
Okay.
Largely Latino demographic, and our high school was kind of new, and the kids just took it over. Basically, we just did whatever we wanted. And so when they were asking me to do stuff, was like, no, I'm just gonna go party. And so, I failed all my classes. I had zeros and F's and stuff. Then I ended up going back home and ended up going to culinary school, and I got into the industry of cooking, and that's where I realized, like, oh, what is kind of expected of me, what kind of the working world sees me as, which is Mexican. I'm brown, and if I'm in the sun, which I get more brown.
Oh man.
Who'd
have guessed?
Yeah. And so, and I also I speak the language and I identify with our people. I was privileged enough to be able to go back home to Mexico when I was younger. My dad would take us every year to the pueblos of Michoacan and different parts of Mexico. So I identified with my people at a very early age, and so what kind of that translated to in the working world as a cook, it, I now I see it that it's like there weren't many pathways to advance. And I was also very codependent, so I had to like please people, and so I kind of always put an extra foot forward and hurt myself for the work, for the approval. Didn't ask for any raises. If I asked to be advanced, it was like, no, let's just keep him here. He does the work for cheap, and
Oh no.
So I feel like that's that's my introduction to the working world and working as a kind of what's a blue collar? Blue collar, yeah. And even to this day, I picked up carpentry because I couldn't find a job in. I ended up coming back studying botany, and actually graduating and getting really good grades because I was serious this time.
Because you liked plants, maybe.
Because I liked plants, and it was fun. And,
that's great.
And then I was working for so long too that I was like, oh man, I don't want to go back to to the kitchen, and so I got into academics, and in academics, I feel like it's still part of work. In academics, I saw clearly what it looks like, how it feels like when a system gives you a pathway, because I feel like they wanted me to advance, and I had to find the people that wanted me to advance. I found Intercept, the Indian Natural Resources, Science and Technology. I don't know what it stands for.
That's cool though.
Yeah. So I found the homie Lonix, who was the coordinator there, who helped me kind of who pushed me to advance my career. And now I'm looking at an academic career.
Cool.
And so I saw clearly, like, oh, there are situations, there are jobs, there are industries or whatever, in which people want you to advance instead of being like, no, let's just leave them here. So that tripped me out.
Where people want you to succeed.
Yeah, people want me to succeed, and so I ended up going to 2RU International Research Education Opportunities.
Cool.
I went to Costa Rica for 2 months, to Thailand for 2 months, one summer and the other summer. And I saw the importance of having a pathway, or finding yourself somewhere where there's a pathway.
Yeah.
And people would just say, go that way.
Yeah,
say,
and
cool.
it was easier.
Yeah, but then I ended up,
I don't think
after I graduated, I ended up working for Centro del Pueblo. It was a place that I was organizing for, volunteering my time as a musician. I'm a musician too.
Hell yeah.
I'm an artist, yeah.
And you just showed me some of that art.
Yeah. We're working on an art piece for a store that we're opening up. And so I feel like it's I don't know. I'm just you asking me about work, and
Yeah.
I'm realizing just reflecting on the importance of having pathways in your work, or whatever it is. Even if it's at heart work. If you have a guide, if you have a teacher, if you have mentors, you have grandparents, you have
people
parents.
who want you to succeed.
Yeah, that's important. But yeah, I also find myself right now working kind of freelance as a landscaper. I ended up learning carpentry the last 4 years because I had trouble finding a job in academics or continuing my schoolwork.
Yeah, I think I've seen the cool thing that you have in your garden that you built, the like little house that you hang out in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, my baby's house. Little. It's like a little dog. It's like a life-size baby house
for her. Yeah, it's so nice. I loved watching you create that in the Instagram stories. I was like, oh wow, this is it really fed my life to see that coming to life. It's really neat.
Yeah, I think that, and I think that's where like the kind of where those two definitions they always meet at some point. Or there's always an opportunity for them to meet. Even though I didn't really want to get into carpentry, and I felt like I didn't have a choice. Another hard labor job that really messes up. It
does. It
mess you
has
up.
a tax on the body. Yeah.
There's chemicals too. But to have that kind of sovereignty, in which I don't have to. I could think of something and build it.
Yeah.
I don't have to ask somebody, pay them a shit ton of money to build it.
Yeah,
or,
you have the power over it.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
And yeah, I guess that's a good example on how those two works can come together, which is providing a space for my baby and using the skills that I picked up from this really intense labor.
Yeah, and trying to make financial ends meet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I think that's the first thing you said when I asked about work was, well, there's two. There's finance, and then there's what my heart wants.
Yeah.
And it sounds like from everything you've said, you're following the finances in the sense of trying to just stay alive, but you're also trying to find something that fulfills you in a more whole, like, body way, mind, body, spirit, heart.
Yeah, and I think and it was just recently in which I feel like I've been going through this healing journey the last 6 years, and when I accepted that I needed to heal, that there was a problem, and in that journey I have been able to first heal a God wound. I feel that I felt that I couldn't trust God, or I couldn't trust Creator, whatever you call it. I'm in 12 steps, and I have a sponsor, and she calls her higher power the great lesbian in the sky. She's like, I ain't about that colonial sky daddy. But
yeah.
So she's like, whatever it is,
whatever that higher power is.
Whatever it is, just something bigger than yourself.
Something bigger than you. Yeah.
And I think I've had to face that, first that God wound of like, and all cultures have gods, or have something that they pray to, something that they acknowledge is bigger than themselves. Whatever ancestry any of us come from, if you look back, after modernization, just 1 or 2 generations, for sure, everyone
has some
has,
higher power.
And built cities on it, and
it just
science.
hasn't been that long since that was all we collectively agreed to believe in as something more than us.
And separately too. Isolated.
In totally different cultures and groups, but we all agreed like we need something bigger than us. And
so I think that was something that I had to face in this healing journey and accepting, you know. And I think a lot of that wound came from colonization, you know, or the imposed view of what God is, or the imposed view that I am bad because I am brown, because I am because I was meant to be kind of a slave or something to be, you know, conquered. And I need, and my rituals and my sovereignty and my ability to fight for injustices had to be, you know, suppressed within my people. So I think there was a big God wound that probably, you know, has lasted for generations, and that's something that I had to work on. And another thing, the other important thing which I just started realizing is a wound with finances, you know. I always felt like money was bad, or money was the root of all evil, and that people that have money are, you know, essentially, you know, underneath the surface, you know.
Yeah, like sneaky bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
And having a baby, I realized, like, gosh, you know, it's like this baby, she needs, you know, she needs more than money, you know. She needs, I realized that when the baby's born, we're an extension of its organs, we're an extension of its emotional kind of system, you know.
Yeah.
If you don't carry a baby, when they're born, they have a hard time pooping and stuff, so you have to, like, actually move them around, carry them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're doing a lot of work for them in those early days.
Yeah, and the same thing with emotions, you know, like they don't know what's going on, and you have to be there to help regulate their emotions for them. It showed me that I'm an extension, and also, you know, she needs to be provided for. She needs food. Mom needs rest.
Yeah.
So if mom has to work all the time, or, you know, if mom has to worry about working, then that stresses and that neglect is gonna affect the baby.
Yeah.
And so I realized, like, oh damn, I gotta, you know, I gotta fix this relationship with my finances and my solvency. And so recently I just kind of, you know, I just started with that realization, and even started with a prayer, you know, to be like, all right, I'm done thinking that, you know, money is bad.
Yeah.
And I'm inviting it in.
Yeah.
Come through if you want.
I love that.
And yeah, but also in a good way, because I also know how it's not necessarily money is the root of all evil. I think it's just our human tendency, you know.
I think of it as just and I do think of it as colonial, but the assumption that anything is more important than the human, like, person, right? Like, because the money doesn't mean anything if it's not about you and your daughter and your family, right? Like, getting the money would do nothing for you, or it would not matter as much. It's about the people.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's more about, like, the way that so often our society and everything about the framework surrounding getting money prioritizes money and property over the people and their welfare. And if that wasn't the case, we wouldn't have this, like, money is evil problem. But because the whole system is set up to assume money more important than lone individual, you know, the cog in the machine is not as important as the money that machine is producing. And because of that framework, it's, you know, it's dehumanizing, it's anti-human. And so I think for me, that's how I try to think about money, because I know it in itself is not evil, but our systems are set up to prioritize it over, like, living bodies, and that was useful while we were, you know, struggling for technological advancement and all of these things that happened for us. And I don't think that's useful anymore, and that we can shift again and reprioritize human life without suffering setbacks as a species. I mean, I think we have the knowledge now to like prioritize human life without hurting our environment in doing so.
Yeah, and we have AI too, so it's like,
Yeah, the AI can just do it for us. I forgot to ask, can I get you something to drink, like water or
I'll take some
tea?
water. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have bubbly water or regular water.
Well, I'll take a bubbly water so it can make
bubbly. Okay.
a snap in the microphone.
Okay. Okay, I only have lime.
That's fine. Yeah,
Okay.
that's good. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
All right, everybody, drink bubbly. We're sponsored by Bubbly.
Sponsored by Bubbly. That's perfect. Oh, that was good.
Yeah, and you know, I also saw how a lot of my my healing journey, a lot of my problems and the problems that I've caused even are a lot of them are all systematic.
Yeah.
Machismo is systematic.
You want to talk about that a little more? Because that's like, I think a lot of people are suffering from.
Yeah. It goes back to it goes back to having a baby, and my parents, they love me. They stayed together. But what happened was that they were maybe hyper focused, maybe a little bit. I'm not sure. On attaining financial wealth and making sure that they have money for just that to feel secure. And so when I was in high school, around middle school, and my grandma passed away. My grandma went to an old people's home. She had dementia. Around high school, that's when nobody was home when I got back from school, and I mean, my mom would come home and make food, but I also
You had a lot of free time.
I had a lot of free time. It was easy for me to leave, and my dad was also kind of preoccupied with union organizing as well.
Oh, cool. Good for him.
So he was, and my parents would get into fights because he would kind of prioritize union organizing.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing.
That can take up a lot of time.
Yeah, organizing and all that work is you could
do it all your life.
Yeah,
you could dedicate every time. All your time to it, and it's still never enough. And
yeah. You could dig your workaholic heels into it.
Yeah, you really can.
And so I just felt like there was I was out in the streets, a lot, hanging out with friends. Learned all my my kind of aspects of socializing, out in the streets, my sexual relations out in the streets, the way that I talk to, the way that I talk to people, that was learned out in those streets, and luckily, I never got caught up in the crazy stuff, which was around, there's gangs, and there was hard drugs, meth, heroin, crack. But I just stayed kind of a stoner kid, a stoner drunk during high school. The safe ones. And I even thought, like, even coming here, I reflected, like, oh damn, I got away.
Oh yeah.
And one of my homies passed away. He's R.I.P. to Frankie, because through police suicide, and
fuck.
he, he had problems with his lady, and he didn't know how to deal with it, and he ended up, planning to get shot by the cops. That's what happened.
Wow.
And that kind of showed me that I think Frankie has been a reminder, like, oh, they're, came from the same lot.
Yeah.
There's something that was in that water, and it's systematic, because it's not just me, and it's not just even just Frankie. It's
I just got goosebumps.
Yeah.
The way you said that.
And, yeah. So it's yeah. I think that I realized that the way that we learned how to communicate sexually, how to communicate with the opposite sex, or whatever you're in your relationships,
Yeah.
your partnerships. When we're not guided, we as Chicano men, we don't have our coming of age ceremony. I was busting chops with my friend the other day, and it's like, for our traditional ecological knowledge is domestic violence.
Oof.
And
Damn.
and it's it's kind of
But-
there's a truth to it.
Yeah. But I think the part you said right before that about not having like your community like traditions, rituals, knowledge, like living, breathing fabric of that social reality being completely stripped away, and then you're being told, oh, you're still not normal in LA, you're some other thing. And together that's like, of course you're gonna feel like shit about yourself or struggle with things like domestic violence or anything. You take away anybody's like culture and social fabric and then tell them they're less, like how do you expect them to act?
Yeah, and it's I also like reflected on how like, oh, we still have the quinceañeras, which are the supposedly the kind of the coming of age ceremony
For women. Yeah.
But if you've ever been to one, it's just kind of a mock-up wedding, as my uncle says, Adolfo. It's just a mock-up wedding, and it makes sense, because it's like we need the women to mature so they could provide kids for the colonizers. We don't want our men to mature, because then they're gonna start
Ooh, that's
asking for
fucked
shit,
up.
and start fighting.
You're
for
calling
the
out
land.
a breeding program right there. You are.
And
Yeah.
so it's like,
That's so fucked up.
yeah, and for the men or the people that identify as masculine, it's like, you stay where immature. You stay not knowing how to regulate, how to create healthy communities, how to fight in a good way for injustices, because then that means that you're gonna take that power back.
Yeah. Well, and as long as they don't know any of that, they're cheap labor, right? So it's like we want cheap labor, like dumb cheap labor, and once you're not useful, you can
Die.
Yeah. Like Frankie.
Yeah.
Fuck. R.I.P. for real.
Yeah.
That's. You're not wrong. Like, that's what's so like I can't.
Well, I think that's where the heart work comes from, also.
I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, for a long time it was just, for me, the heart work has always just been a push. It's always been just something that comes from the heart. It's like, I don't know why I'm gonna go play music outside, but I'm gonna go do it. I don't know why I'm gonna go help this organization for free for years, but I'm gonna go do it.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm gonna go say hi to this auntie and connect her to resources that I know, or invite my friend to this, ceremony on the sweat lodge, but I'm just gonna do it. But I think it's like an emotional intelligence. 'Cause I like to think that, like, as humans, we have this crazy machine in our head, and we're taking in all this data from, we see things, we hear things, we think things, we hear history, we feel, we smell,
Yeah.
and consciously I think it's a lot, and we can only focus on certain things. But I think unconsciously we're like
Always experiencing it. I agree with that. Yeah.
and I think that our mind or our soul or whatever synthesizes all that information and be like, go that way, this is the best route for you, for everything. And I think that's where the heart work comes from.
Yeah.
It's just like an instinct
Telling you from all the info that you could possibly get, like, hey, remember, like, do this. Yeah.
Yeah,
That rings true to me in my, like, living experience.
I'm sure you've looked back and you're like, oh, that's why I did it.
Yeah, totally. I could come up with all sorts of reasons, but at the time it's just, I had to do it, or something was urging me that this was the right thing.
Yeah, right now I feel like, acknowledging the lack of ceremonies, acknowledging the lack of, even locally, this lack of spaces for our culture. I've, when I worked with Centro del Pueblo, I saw how the kids from the families that live here, there's two Latino communities here. There's the university folks that have gone to university, and then there are the kind of blue collar families, maybe undocumented, or and in that community there's a fear of participating in a lot of things, and because there's been historic raids here in Fortuna. It's a rural area. There's been physical violence, assaults on families and kids at school, and always the threat of deportation. And so there's those communities, and what I've seen sometimes in the communities of our folks that have migrated or are undocumented, their children, a lot of the times the children hate themselves, hate where they come from. They don't have there's not a lot of orgullo, we call it, which is pride. And it makes sense because our community members, they come here from their pueblos, they cross the border, they leave behind their homes and their farms and anything, and even their teachings, because they don't have access to land here, or to traditions or to their community,
So they can't practice what they know.
Yeah, and then they have to work for minimum wage or less, and a lot, and so they can't connect, and they don't have time, and they're tired.
Yeah.
And so I've noticed that the kids, there is a lack of they want to be like the white kids. The white kids have money, the white kids have horses, the white kids have big trucks.
Yeah.
And nice boots, and cool parties, cows and shit.
Cows and shit. Yeah.
4-H.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, they got that 4-H out here for sure.
And so having a kid, for me, it's very important to be connected to that community, but also help create more spaces where community can come together.
Yeah.
And and where we can participate in our culture and stuff, and I guess this leads me to my other work, which is a lot of times unrecognized. But when I was working with Centro del Pueblo, I was there during the pandemic. Another hard work. During that time, so I volunteered for 8 years, playing music, sitting in on meetings with Rene Salcedo and Brenda,
Yeah.
and all the other folks, Sochi, Julio, the other Sochi, and after I graduated, I wanted to get out because I went through some stuff here, and I was like, I gotta get out of here, and also just the constant, grinding of not having your culture and
in a small rural town.
Yeah. It was definitely getting to me after 6 years this time.
Valid.
But I realized that no one was the pandemic happened, and there was no information in Spanish.
Oh my
There
God.
was our undocumented folks didn't receive any grants or any of the checks. They were getting laid off. They don't have any unemployment benefits. They still had families, and so I just was like, oh damn, like no one's helping our folks, and so it kind of fell at a perfect time where I could instead of just volunteering as a musician, whatever. And I also had these skills from studying botany, sciences, ecology, writing papers, the REUs that I had. I was just intensively just writing for like the last 3 years, research, writing.
Yeah.
And,
Cool.
And that was kind of like what was needed.
Was the writing skills.
The writing skills
Yeah.
for the organization, and also
Yeah.
the implementing a project, or seeing what's the problem,
Yeah.
what's a solution, what do we need,
Totally.
and so that was kind of key because we were able to raise about like $250,000 in 1 year just for grants
Nice.
for the immigrant community.
Hell yeah.
So we were giving out $500 checks because that was the limit that we could give before we had to, get a W-9.
Right.
And networking with Humboldt Area Foundation, 7th Gen, and different state organizations, and obviously it all started with communicating the problem. Hey,
Right.
there's this problem.
There's this problem.
There's this problem, you guys. So
Yeah.
people are being laid off. They don't have any of these benefits.
Yeah, there's no support net.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're hungry.
Hungry.
There's there's
Possibly about to be on the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we were able to do that, and it also, that work helped that trust with the community.
Yeah.
Before that, El Centro was mostly when you went to an El Centro event, the participation was mostly from allies, folks from the university,
Right.
and a couple of community members, and the work that Rene Salcedo did, and Brenda, Passing Measure K.
The sanctuary.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so good.
That was a lot of work, and there was a lot of help from allies and from the university folks. But I felt like there was always kind of the people that we were serving, wouldn't show up as much for the events, and it makes sense. There was fear, raids, violence, that stuff.
Yeah.
They don't want to, you don't want to be associated with.
No, you're just trying to
People are
survive
being loud,
and
yeah,
get
it's
some
like-
room to have your own life.
Yeah, lay
Yeah.
low.
Yeah.
And but once the pandemic hit, and we were reaching out to people in Garberville and in Eureka, Arcata,
Just
McKinleyville,
everywhere. Wow.
up to Crescent City, I think, and we were talking to people, one-on-one, on the phone, giving people money, and that created, trust, and so that helped establish that network, which is
That's amazing.
now in use, and now helping connect families.
That's phenomenal.
And another thing that was very important for me as a botanist, I was hanging out when I was in school with my friend Karina Coronado. She was the director of CCAT at that time during my last year, and I always enjoyed going over there, especially because she was there. And I would hang out with the CCAT crew every now and again, and I always felt like, damn, dude, it would be cool if there was like a CCAT Latino,
Yeah.
because CCAT helps you, learn about organic farming and how to be grounded with food, and gives you that sovereignty. It's something very important.
What's it stand for? California, or like C? I don't know
Campus,
what it is.
Campus Center for Appropriate Technology.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Something like that,
Yeah.
It was and also the way that they do it is it's a way in which anyone can do it, and they're not big about buying soil. They're big about building soil,
That's
using
cool.
compost,
Yeah.
and so which are indigenous ways of farming and stuff.
Like with fire?
Even with fire, yeah.
Cool.
Fire, bones, whatever fat. Make candles and shit. Using the resources that are available.
Right.
Making biochar with fire and stuff. And I always thought, like, damn, it would be cool if there was a CCAT Latino. And when I was the co-director of Centro del Pueblo, we were able to raise money too to staff the organization before it was all volunteer work.
That's awesome.
And so we staffed ourselves, and towards the end of my time there,
And you were doing all of this grant writing. Like, this was a huge, like, you were a huge part of all of that. It sounds like.
and it was easy. It's in philanthropy, it's easy when you're the sweetheart of organizations, because people just listen to you. We could have a conversation.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah, we need, okay, here's $10,000. Oh, okay, here,
Please teach
here's $20,000.
everybody how to do be the sweetheart.
Yeah. But if you're the black sheep, then it's like, what do you want? All right, we'll write this, and then we'll see.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think so, buddy.
Oh man, it's
So,
it's a rough game.
Yeah, it's a rough game, dude. Yeah. So when you're a sweetheart, it's nice. People come up to you. How can we help?
That's great.
But yeah. So at that time, I was in the sweetheart gang.
Right. So it was all rainbows and sunshine. Yeah.
For funding.
Cool.
It's but then I was able to kind of fulfill that dream of having a CCAT Latino, because during that time Karina Coronado was also out of a job.
Okay.
And so I got with her, and Carl Ray, she grows food too, and we were always talking with Adan when we met him about growing food, and every time I saw that, it was always about food and la milpa and maíz, and it's
Nice.
like, yeah, we gotta do this.
Yeah.
And so we kind of made a crew, and we had the perfect person, Karina, who directed CCAT.
Right. Yep.
And so
that is a dream team.
Mm-hmm. And so that's when we called the program Comida del Pueblo or something like that. I don't know, I forgot what it was called. Which then, we had the ideas, we had the team, we had the folks, and then I ended up leaving, but they then found the spot here, and so then that was able to become the Jardín Santuario. And
so that's pretty recent.
Yeah.
That's within the last few years, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Before it was a community garden, and so one thing with the community gardens, I feel is like, you know, you have plots for people, and the people that are on it, they'll use it, and they'll, you know, they'll be there, they'll tend to it. The people that might just be excited for the first month or whatever, they'll put something in there, they'll forget about it, and then it's like, well, don't touch that because that's, you know, that's homegirls.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, and then it's like an empty plot.
Right.
So the cool thing about CCAT and the way that they did stuff is that they had a, you know, director of the garden, and right now, so that's kind of the system that was kind of put in place, which was why it was designed like that, you know,
Right.
to have a director. To run just like CCAT.
Okay.
There's a director or a group of staff that, you know, kind of work with all the garden, with community, get input. But these folks are making sure that the job gets done. So it's not like, oh, you know, this plot's.
Right.
It's just, you know.
Okay, so it's just like alive still, like it's moving, and they're always.
And then when
people touching plants.
People touching plants, and people learning also. That's the important thing.
Cool.
Learning how to grow. Something they could do a little bit better at the harder thing, I feel, is the compost. Because that's sovereignty right there, compost.
Yeah. If you can create your own dirt. Yeah.
And that's something that CCAT, you know, I feel like realized and like emphasize compost.
Cool.
Because it's super important.
It is.
Builds
it's huge.
soil, yeah.
It's a huge part of that closed circuit, you know, ecosystem. If you want to have that kind of relationship with the land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that whole project was, you know, kind of was hard work.
Yeah, no,
Anyways.
absolutely. Wow. Gosh, I feel like I have a lot of questions that way. So many. But I think I want to go broader and do a little bit of just summary kind of questions. Like, you told me a lot today about your life, and I just first of all want to thank you. That was just thank you. Yeah, I loved listening. And I guess my biggest question for you really is there anything that you would want to tell people who have lived through what you've lived through or struggled with what you've struggled, and like anything you would want to share with people out there in the world?
Yeah, I think one of the most important lessons that I've learned is that you know, everyone that has been harmed in their life, you know, even me when I was beat as a kid and all that stuff, and, you know, experienced racism, I'm brown as hell, living in America.
The normal shit.
The normal shit, yeah.
Yeah.
So I realized that those are our responsibilities to heal.
To yourself or
to everyone?
Okay.
Because if you don't heal them, then you're gonna hurt somebody. Whether it's politically correct to hurt those people or not. Or
I approve of punching up.
Yeah. It's
But I know what you mean.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who, or yourself too.
Yeah.
You're gonna keep hurting yourself, hurting your relationships. You have to. I feel like.
How do you let
facing.
it go?
Oh, it's a life process, and that's why I feel like having our ceremonies back is so important, because it teaches you how to suffer in a good way, you know, and to how to realize that it's not just you, it's not just your life, you're connected with everything.
Yeah.
And in our tradition, it's like they call it encloque nahuatl, which means interconnect the sacredness. So it's we're all connected, and so when we don't heal, we don't want to see our darkness. We want to use alcohol or workahol, whatever it is.
Was that at me or at you?
No, whatever. Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah. It's it ends up punching somebody in the face. You know?
Somebody you probably know.
Yeah, somebody. Yeah, either yourself, your dog, your cat, your child, your comrade, your lover, your relations, your grandma.
Oh man, I do not want to punch my
Yeah. And yeah, it's I think it's I've learned that you just have to face it, and there's tools, you know, ask for tools.
There are tools.
Meditate, ask for help, pray if you're in that. If you're into that, yeah.
Lesbian in the sky.
Yeah, pray to the great lesbian in the sky.
Okay, I'll give that one a try.
Please, great lesbian in the sky, help me find tools, help me find community, help me find resources, help me stop being so selfish.
Yeah. Self-harming.
Yeah, self-harming. It's something about like those the wounds, and that I also learned was I in my process of healing, I was kind of ostracized, and I ended up, a homie ended up reaching out, and he's Lakota, and he invited me, and during that time it was like, I was very isolated, and didn't have anyone. My own relationships were all messed up.
Yeah.
And my homie was, just told me, "Hey, bro, come sweat." And I'm like, "All right, yeah, I don't know, It's like, contemplating suicide and all crazy.
You were in this really dark space,
I was in
and
that
he's
dark
like, "Hey,
space.
come sweat."
Yeah, and his openness, to everything was that compassion. It's that something that I learned about compassion is that it's good for everyone. Needs compassion, no matter how crazy the shit that they've done. Doesn't mean that you're the one that's supposed to have that compassion.
Right.
But you can support someone who has that compassion, like my homie.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that kind of helped me, and being in that womb and learning that, like the nipi, the sweat lodge represents a womb, and it's our mother, and it's like, this is where we pray, and this is where we kind of let go of those things and cry and do whatever, and feel the intensity of the heat, and then we're birthed, and then we relax once we're outside.
The breath. Yeah.
And but another thing that I've heard, the Lakota healing ways, was I heard a story that in the culture, when somebody was sick, like everyone would come by to this person's, to their house or whatever, and thank them for carrying this sickness that was in the community. They were the ones that were carrying this sickness.
They were chosen, yeah. Or like.
Yeah, and it's and so it's and I started realizing later, it's especially when it comes to like emotional sicknesses, psychological sicknesses, or characteristic sicknesses, that when someone carries a wound, a disease, they are so close to it, that they they develop a relationship with it. That's especially, like I said, with psychological, emotional ones, you start to understand why it is that you do all these things. Like, oh shit, like, I learned this from here. Oh shit, if I had accepted myself, or if I wasn't so codependent, blah blah, if I wasn't in my addictions, and like, oh, how important compassion is. You kind of make a curriculum. Like, oh shit, like, this is what we need to fix this problem, because you're in it.
Yeah.
you're feeling all the things.
You're becoming an expert.
Yeah. These are the consequences. Fuck.
Right. I'm just writing those down.
Yeah. And it's every day, for
Yep.
years. Like, fuck.
Yes. Oh, I relate to
PhD.
that.
PhD in being a dumbass.
Yeah, I got one of those.
But yeah, it makes sense that that the people would come to this person and thank them.
Yeah.
Thank you for carrying this wound. Thank you for carrying this disease that's in our community.
Right.
You're a part of our community. We're all
Yeah.
connected. And and you have it. And so thank you.
For carrying it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a trip.
Enough.
Oh.
Okay, so we're recording now.
Hello.
computers talk to each other.
Oh, hell yeah. Perfect.
Nice.
Good thinking.
Just like 1,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say you just committed to making like a billion of those, but it's gonna look great.
But you have to be careful. You saw, did you look at the, because nopal might go right over that. So you have to double check, look at the photo. But the nopal's going to be spaced out, so
Yes.
like from an angle you'll be. I'm gonna leave my tools here.
I didn't see this. Oh,
She didn't see it put together, no. That's why I sent the photo.
This is kind of what I was talking about when I said the other day that the Christians in this region disappoint me.
Work. And you were all
The hate crimes. The hate crimes is what I'm talking about here.
Oh, Talavera?
I loved that.
She's like, what is she?
She was like, why is she looking at our feet? Do we need to move them? I was like, hell yeah, now we're dancing.
You're transitioning as well. When you start weaning your baby to use plates. All kinds of stuff.
All kinds of stuff. I liked how she talked. So cool. Oh, the colors. And she told me she spent so long on this, and I see it. I see every last detail. I fucking love oranges and tangerines and everything relating to citrus. It is just the best. And lime and lemon and Florida water and Florida probably too.
Or the chorus of my cheese. In the background, there's voices that are doing tones. And some of the other songs that he has.
I loved all the gravel crunching. That, like, not to be autistic, but I was stimming out really hard on how it sounded.
And then all of a sudden, that kind of stops.
Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Patience is love. Oh my god, I know.
It makes little him too.
Yeah, when I cough, she coughs. I'll do a little. She'll do like.
That's empathy for you.
Oh, hell yeah. Perfect.
Nice. Yeah, I was gonna say, you just committed to making like 1 billion of those, but it's gonna look great. Oh god, it was looking good by the time I left.
So, did you look at the.
Huge part of mine. I just love it. I loved dancing with this balloon. We were just swaying. I was thinking of a friend. Those swirls are so
I
cool.
didn't see it put together. That's why I sent the photo.
I can't wait to see this on Saturday. At the fair. Yeah, it's like the North Country Fair. I don't know. Everybody keeps telling me about it, and they have been telling me about it for the last 10 years in increasingly bigger ways, and I've gotten like myself so psyched out about this thing that I can't even articulate properly to people when they ask me if I'm going. I'm like, what? To what? And they're like, the thing this weekend. I'm like, what thing? They're like, the Northtown County Fair. And I'm like, the what? Oh, that part was so good.
Work, and you are all just working together, and there's so much love here, and I can see that.
I can. Oh, it's beautiful. Oh my gosh, okay, I've geeked out enough for one evening, right? I can't possibly cry or laugh anymore. God, I hope I get to do these interviews more. So much more. This song drives me nuts because I'm like, I know the lyrics and I can't think of them. And you'll do a world of pure imagination. Oh, okay, it's the Willy Wonka song. That's what I'm hearing. That's why it drives me nuts. Oh my gosh, we're still recording. I'm so sorry.